Pepe Instigator, your TED Talk. Yeah. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. You saw my response, right? Also, feel like the webcam is super low. I gotta fix this, but at the same time, the motivation to do so. That should be good. As long as that Zelda poster is within view, I wouldn't mind it. Also, like I said, let's try the trick from last time that I accidentally did, which is to put the mic over here. That's officially in view, but I don't mind that. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Alright. And Skelly Bones, welcome to the stream. Okay, so sorry, I was distracted by a meme here. So today's going to be undoubtedly a very, very, very very, very, very thoughts on the new Hot Toys. You're not getting me with that one. And plus, like I said, not only am I trying to migrate away from Hot Toys as a whole, but also Star Wars these days. I'm just not. There's very little Star Wars that really gets me. I even made a joke about that new Anakin that just dropped. That looks more like Michael Jackson than anything else. The Qui-Gon looks kind of neat though. I did kind of percolate a little bit towards the Qui-Gon, but at the same time, I don't really love. I really really like Star Wars, but I don't love it enough to get any Hot Toys. Did I have any Star Wars Hot Toys at all that I sold off? Not really. Most of the Hot Toys stuff that I have is either DC or Marvel. I don't think I had any Star Wars. I'm trying to think, did I ever? At one point, I was teasing the idea of getting a Darth Maul because I generally do like Darth Maul, and if there was a Hot Toys character to own, actually no, holy shit, why? I'm an idiot. Yes, I did own a Hot Toys Darth Vader, and I sold it. Yeah, I had a Darth Vader. It was the Rogue One, because I know that there's like a shit. If there was one genuine question, which one has gotten more Hot Toy? Which one has Hot Toys made more figures of, Darth Vader or Spider-Man or Batman? I would argue maybe Batman. I think it's Batman, Spider-Man, but then in third place, it would actually be Darth Vader, because I think Darth Vader has had the most iterations, because, and I think the reason for why maybe Darth Vader hits a bit more, for lack of a better term, egregiously, is because with Darth Vader, there's the differences in between each suit and helmet are so nuanced and marginal that only die-hard fans notice. I'm not lambasting them for noticing, because even though I don't think I'm that die-hard of a Star Wars fan like that, I do, however, have the eye for noticing just ever so slightly little differences and details that it kind of just gets under my skin, like OCD levels of getting under my skin, that I'm like, why is that different? Why is it different right there? And I need an explanation by the difference. And with Darth Vader, I do kind of notice it. Sometimes I notice that the eyes are a little bit bigger than usual. Sometimes I was, even when the movie came out, I was 14 years old, and even I noticed in some of the promo material, why does he look skinny versus the way that he looks like in the original trilogy? When they were showing the promo photos of Hayden Christensen in the suit, and I'm like, Yeah, he's definitely slimmed down to what he looks like in the original trilogy. And I noticed that, but also from the helmet, this funnel part is just coning a little bit more than it was in the original trilogy. And and at first I thought I was just going crazy, but thankfully a few years later, thanks to the power of the internet, I was vindicated by seeing that people were like, "No, yeah, like the helmet is literally different in every version that he shows up on screen, almost every time." I think Iron Man is up there. Ooh, that's true. Iron Man. There's so many marks, so many goddamn marks. So it would be Spider Man, Iron Man, Batman, a lot of mans, and I want to say cracking the top five is Darth Vader. But yeah, and with Darth Vader, I think the reason for why people get annoyed with the Darth Vaders is because they any layman that you ask at like your average Walmart customer or whatever, you show them all these hot toys, they're all gonna be like, it's the same, just right off the bat. They're not gonna notice. Only people who have the eye for it and or diehard Star Wars fans are gonna be like, that's the Empire one, that's the New Hope one, that's the Rogue One one. There might be an Obi-Wan one, there's the Revenge of the Sith one, and there you go. Hopped on that Ozempic. But yeah, I'm trying to migrate away from 6 scale. I think now I literally own just a handful of some, of one of which you actually might see. You're going to be seeing a video on tomorrow. It's already scheduled. Video's already done. It was actually done since like Tuesday or Wednesday. I was gonna post it in the middle of the week, but then I pivoted towards the segment of the stream where I talked about the brand new day figures. So I was like, let me put that up first, and then this Hot Toys related video that's gonna go up tomorrow. Of one of the few Hot Toys figures I still own that I kind of don't want to part with because it's actually increasing in price and rarity, and I'm like, I really, the longer I can hold on to this guy, the better. But it's him, Miles Morales from the 2020 game, which I am currently intending on selling. It's listed on my eBay page and my Mercari page, so there's that. Um, Hot Toys Dark Knight Two-Face, which is kind of sharing a similar fate as that first Hot Toys that has a video of going up tomorrow. Actually, no, I already told you guys. It was the Daredevil, the Netflix Daredevil, because I'm doing a video. I did a video on it. So those are the three that I own so far. Is Hot Toys, Hot Toys, Netflix Daredevil, Miles Morales from the 2020 game, spin-off game, which I do intend on selling. I already listed it up because there's so many Miles Moraleses that I figured, okay, later on when I get the money, I could buy it back. It's not that rare of a figure. Dark Knight Two-Face, Dark Knight Police Officer Joker that can transform into the regular Joker, Artisan Joker, which I'm also considering selling because little by little I'm starting to lose a little bit of hype and, for lack of a better term, loyalty on the whole Artisan line, as is so many other collectors. I'm not the only one. There's a bunch of collectors that are like, yeah, maybe Artisan is not as cracked up as it was meant to be. And I had a fair share of tumultuous experiences with that Artisan Joker that even I'm kind of like, you know what? Let me hold on to it for a little while longer. But that's one of the few figures I look at and I go, yeah, if I am to list up another figure to sell and offload, it would actually be the Artisan Joker, to be quite frank. I never thought I would utter those words, but here we are. So yeah, Artisan Jokers, that's 5. Arkham Asylum Batman, Arkham Asylum Joker. I'm sorry, not Arkham Asylum, Arkham City Joker, because they only make it. Arkham Asylum Joker, because I have it down here. It's gonna be part of an opinion piece video that I'm planning. Arkham City Batman, because they never technically made Asylum Batman, they just made City Batman. I guess their explanation is because technically the suits are kind of the same. There's some nuanced differences, but they're more or less the same. Oh, No Way Home Toby, Spider-Man 3 Toby, Dark Knight Rises DX19 Batman, think that's it. I'm trying to think. 10. Still quite a few actually. We did manage to hit the double digits. God damn it. I was thinking that we were in the single digits, but no, we did crack the 10. Damn. Thought I had less than that, but yeah, 10. God damn it. 3030 Deltron, welcome to the stream. Hey, first time here? Welcome. Olivia Miller, welcome to the stream. Do you think that both Cersei and Giganta will get McFarlane Toys figures before they lose the license? I don't know. Well, I'll have to take a look at that list of leaks later in the stream, because there is a leak list that has actually been up already for 2 weeks, but for some weird reason I completely forgot about it when doing a live stream last week. So I figured, you know what, I think this week is a perfect opportunity to kind of take a look at that, especially since we're in for a rather McFarlane Toys heavy show. In fact, I think all topics today are McFarlane Toys. There's probably a couple that maybe I'll try to squeeze in there if we have the time, but to be quite honest, the main 3 focal points that you saw on the title and the thumbnail is predominantly McFarlane Toys. So get ready for that. All right, you know what? Since Delton's already bringing it up, let's cover our first topic, because this is ridiculous. This is insane that McFarlane went ahead and when it's, speaking of Hot Toys, actually, I do love that we're kind of keeping it on several different levels of relevancy here. At one point, I don't know if you guys remember, but speaking of Hot Toys, the Hot Toys that I own and the migration I'm trying to move away from 1/6 scale, to a certain extent, Hot Toys kind of did the same thing for a particular vehicle that they noticed was not necessarily trending upwards in regards to pre-orders, sales, and attention, let alone hype, and decided to just full-blown cancel it. So guess who, strangely enough, opted to just go ahead and make it instead in their patent 1/10 scale? 1/10 scale, 7-inch scale, whatever terminology you want to use. McFarlane Toys with the Batman Returns Batmissle. Effectively what I like to call the half Batmobile. The penis Batmobile. The penis mobile. Yes, this thing here, which is effectively, like I said, the Batman Returns Batmobile, or rather the Keaton Batmobile to some extent, without the left and right sort of pieces that kind of make up those little like Corvette styled aesthetics. Burn those away, he deploys them, and it turns into the Batmissile. All for a grand total of, what was it, like 45 seconds of it on screen? Effectively, probably could potentially be one of the reasons for why Hot Toys decided to opt out of it, because they thought that a combination of it not having that much amount of screen time, along with not having too many pre-order sales being moving in that direction, they probably opted, you know what, this thing's going to cost way more than what we're going to be making up in the back end, and we're just going to cancel it. McFarlane decided to pick up a little bit of that dropped notion, and at first it was admirable to see that McFarlane Toys is taking a big swing with the Batmissle here, because you know, for a little while you would respect McFarlane in taking big swings, of taking bold choices, especially when they picked up the license in 2020 and we're making figures out of characters, and to this day still kind of doing a little bit of that with characters like, I think his name is Omac, was one of the most recent characters, and I'm like, I never heard of this character, and to an extent you have to get credit in him making figures of a character that I never heard of, and yet here he is in a single card release. And, sure, you're still going to have your occasional waves, like the most recent one that's just nothing but Batman's, whether it be brand new figures or reissues or repaints. But then that also means that later down the line, but maybe a couple of months down the line, you get a character like Omek and that White Ranger looking character that looks kind of interesting, to me at least. And then, what were their names? And then Solar Girl, I think was her name. They get action figures, and I'm like, this is a very strange timeline, but credit where credit is due. He is pumping that out, and there's got to be an audience for it. I could almost imagine that maybe there's an audience for the people who would like to have the Batmissle. If it wasn't for the price set at $100 fucking dollars. $100. Oh yeah, that too. In some slight bit of breaking news, is the McFarlane Toys site working for any of you guys? It hasn't been working since this morning, which is pretty timely considering. And when I say, actually, let me be a little specific here. The McFarlane site, not the McFarlane Toys store, but the McFarlane site. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing over there, but the site's not working. Their official McFarlane site, so not the Toy Store site, but the actual main site. It hasn't been working since this morning, and like I said, it's pretty timely considering that we did have a major pre-order drop this morning that I'm going to cover as our next topic. That Batmobile reminds me of a churro. 1/3 of a Bat. Actually, yeah, not even half a Batmobile. It's the Penis Mobile. I think the Vault Collection brought down. So yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's down. All right, so let me see if there's a way for me to find. Let me just go to the McFarlane Toy Store. So yeah, because the toy store definitely still works. There we go. There we go. $100 fucking dollars for effectively 1/3 of a Batmobile. You don't get a pack-in figure, so you don't get a second chance at a returns Batman. It's got no lights and sounds. $100. What are we doing anymore? For a figure for a vehicle that doesn't even have that much staying power. I'll see you at Ross. Mark my words. You know how a few months ago people were finding the Batman Forever vehicle at Ross for about, what was it? Like $30-something, close to 40. It was like $37, $38. Yeah. I'll pick it up then. I might pick it up then. Miss me with that $100. The Batmissle for $100. So McFarlane is opting in for what Hot Toys was trying to stay away with, just from that scrutiny of trying to make up the back end, because they know that those charts are not trending in popularity for this vehicle, because again, it wasn't even on screen for that long. You're likelier to sell Batwings, you're likelier to sell what other kind of like you're likelier to sell the Batboat from Batman Forever, the one that Robin used at the end of Batman Forever. You're likelier to sell that than this Batmissle. Yeah, it could be construed as a hot take, but that's it. You probably would have been able to move more of these if you priced it at $70. And even then, I'm being generous. 60 is more appropriate, in my opinion. Because remember when the Flash Batmobile, the Keaton Batmobile from the Flash, so the technically the inaccurate one with the glossiness and some of the paint apps as far as like the accents on the wheels and whatnot were technically not accurate to the 89 version, but they were technically accurate to the Flash version. So it was the closest thing to a Keaton Batmobile at the time before he overhauled it and made the 89 one that came with a figure as a Amazon exclusive, and even that was what, 80? But then the one that was showing up at Macy's, remember when we were all rambling going for Macy's trying to find the Flash Keaton Batmobile? But it's the glossy one from the Flash. But at the time it didn't matter, because why? It was MSRPing for $60 fucking dollars. $60. That was a banging good deal. I was getting banged by that deal. And now we're getting fisted with a giant ass price of $100. I'm sorry, McFarlane, but you can fuck off with this. As soon as I saw this, I'm like, all right, so it's still available for pre-order, right? And sure enough, it is. Yep, it's been, I think, what was it was it on Monday when it went live for pre-order, or Tuesday? I think it was the 5th that it went up for pre-order. And it's still widely available, and it's going to stay widely available unless they do something about that price. Until then, again, I'll see you either at Ross or at Didi's, because they're gonna have to move some of these units in one way or another. Considering that the rumor mill that's kind of sort of going around a bit is that and again, this is strictly just a rumor, but there's some people from the inside saying that whatever kind of units or stock of whatever bulk or volume is left over at their warehouses or their factories that they utilized overseas, when that license expires come the end of the year, I think in the contract or something, it's like, and again, this is strictly just a rumor. I could be totally wrong. I'm expecting to be wrong. If somebody can prove it wrong, please tell me. That way we can nip this in the bud. But the rumor circulating is that any leftover stock needs to legitimately be destroyed when that license comes and there's any leftover stock. So they're going to have to clearance it one way or another. It has to happen. Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of gauging where those and Skelly Bones. If you ever like want to look for those kind of vehicles at that discount, I mean, I'm frankly, the way I was able to garner some of that info is simply by staying attuned to the Reddit subreddit, the McFarlane Toy subreddit. When somebody finally discovers something, whether it be across the country or out in Midwest, and they're like, "Hey, found this at Ross," I start checking out those Rosses. When the animated series Batwing was hitting for, what was it, $60? Oh yeah, I started hitting Ross's like crazy, and thankfully I found one in my local area that had like 2, and I walked out with one, the most mid-tier of the 2 in box. And yeah, $60 for the animated Batwing. MSRP $150, $90 off. Showed my girlfriend the size of the box, and she was kind of looking at me with like a raised eyebrow, like, should you be buying something that big? But then I told her the discount, and she's like, okay, just try to make space for it. But she wasn't mad at it. She was like, oh shit, $90 off. Ale Prime 07N, welcome to the stream. As soon as I say Vigilante with McFarlane, I thought we were getting an action figure. I think, oh, you meant to say Saw. Well, Ale Prime, stay tuned, because there's a breadcrumb that might allude to the notion that we might. Yeah, Skelly Bones. Hey, they either sell out if they're on sale or if there's some kind of exclusive, like that 89 2-pack that was just, I think at the time, was exclusive to Amazon. I think a couple months later it popped up on the McFarlane Toy Store, but then that's it. It was just those 2. Saturn Girl, that was her name. Why did I say Solar Girl? Saturn Girl was that girl that's part of that new wave. That, like I said, in an alternate reality, we've never had gotten figures of her, and yet here we are. It's a little dramatic. Again, strictly just a rumor, but that's one of the rumors. That's one of the little clauses in the contract with that whole license thing. Anyone pick up the Helldivers on Wednesday? I saw that those Elite Editions went live, and surprisingly, there was like a subsequent tweet that I saw when I refreshed saying that they had sold out and that they were planning on restocking. So I'm like, oh, I guess there's some pretty dedicated fans on those. Sold out everywhere. That's insane. Makes me wonder how they're gonna handle the Sony license going forward. Outside of this Helldiver, supposedly they're already cooking on the God of War stuff. Now that I'm gonna be paying attention to. See if they can give Spin Master a run for their money there. And very beautiful segue regarding that rumor about possibly destroying leftover stock come the end of 2026 as soon as that license burns out, because that could potentially explain the launch of this, for lack of a better term, explanation slash excuse to offload some of that restock in the form of I lost my tweet. God damn it, David. I had it open with the Batmissle and then I had to go ahead and close it down. Sorry, I got distracted with a goddamn tweet. Where did McFarlane Toys go? Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. So, I'm looking for like a good graphic of this thing. Actually, wasn't there like a video a little while ago? Let me see if I can play that video for you guys. Here we go. With the launch of the McFarlane Toys Vault, which opened quite literally today, which could explain why the site, the main McFarlane site, so not the McFarlane Toys store, not the storefront, you can still buy from there, but the McFarlane Toys site, the one that has like the catalogs of figures and things about comics and everything that has to do with McFarlane as a whole, is pretty much down. And this could potentially be the explanation for that, as well as, like I said, something to kind of quell the rumors of, actually doesn't not so much quell the rumors so much as it kind of fuels them a little bit that they would need to destroy leftover stock should there be any in their factories or in their warehouses come the end of 2026. So their strategy, put out the Vault Collection, which is effectively a way to kind of reissue figures that are very high in demand, starting off with some that are in fact some of the more in-demand figures. You can kind of see a slew of photos right here, but we actually have just a little bit more of a broad strokes sort of look at some of these in-demand figures, or mostly in-demand figures, from the pre-order launches that happened today. As of this morning, 9 a.m., May 8th, when this live stream, or the segment of the live stream is happening. And amongst them was one that was a very easy given, which is the classic Wonder Woman, which initially came out as a collector's edition, and now is being pretty much slimmed down a little bit because from what I can tell, the site's not going to work, right? Yeah, okay, god damn it. But basically, she comes with the sword, the lasso, and then four alternative hands. But you notice that she's missing the shield, I believe an axe, and what else did she come with? There was one other thing that she can't. I think it was like that stand that props up the card, and that was all part of the collector's edition. So they probably figured, okay, let's get rid of some of those accessories, slim it down to a $26.99 price point as part of this Vault edition, and make it just widely available as, like I said, reissue and a second chance at people who missed out on that initial one that just kind of came and went, and people to this day still wanted that definitive Wonder Woman figure. And so, long story short, people have that second chance, which effectively is a net positive. Don't get me wrong. The way I feel about the Vault collection is that it is, at the end of the day, bottom line, a net positive. It truly is. Like, the fact that, they're doing away with the collector's edition branding, technically bringing down the price. It's funny because it brings down the price on some figures, but then upscales them in some. So Wonder Woman is probably the best example of like I said, a net positive, where she is technically cheaper than she was originally released. You are missing some accessories, but at least she comes with the essentials, which is some of the bonus hands, the art card, and the sword and the lasso. Specifically, the lasso that is technically like a felt. It's not like a plastic warbly thing. It's an actual like felt good. Is it a felt good rope, like a little yarn that's coated in the little bit of a stringy texture, which is nice. It's cool, and the core figure still looks pretty neat. And like I said, it's retailing for $26.99, so you're technically, cutting off $9 off the price, and it's like, okay, that could legitimately work. Let me look at some of these other photos. It's funny that she comes with the sword, but they don't really talk about the sword, so that's pretty curious. But then we get into some peculiar territory, where, like I said, we get a little bit of an upscaling. For example, I think he also too was a collector's edition, so I guess this is also another net positive where we slim down the price a bit, lose a few accessories, but the only curious or more so puzzling aspect about this guy is that I don't think so many people were kind of clamoring for a re-release of this guy. When you think of figures that you want McFarlane to dish out and give a second chance at buying, I'm not sure this guy was really up there in the running. Wonder Woman for sure. What was another one? Maybe the Dark Knight Returns, the second version, not the Build-A-Figure version. I'm pulling a blank right now. But there's a couple of others that I probably would have thought of prior to first appearance, Action Comics Superman here. One other one, though, that I did think, should definitely see a re-release, at least a specific iteration of it, would be the Christian Bale Batman. Because Christian Bale Batman is such, for lack of a better term, a goddamn mess. Because the initial release of the guy was on a Build-A-Figure wave of the Dark Knight trilogy that builds up Bane, and that core figure, original figure rather, that came with the Bane pieces, is arguably the worst version of that figure. So now for the same price, you are losing the Bane pieces, but you are getting the felt good cape, the better tooling of the legs that at least look like he can actually put his arms down, and from what I can tell, a slightly cleaned up head sculpt that actually bears a stronger resemblance to Bale than before, along with I think a nicer finish to the paint applications. So I would say for $25.99, giving, like I said, people that chance. One of which I think I even kind of complained about, because since after that Build-A-Bane figure, his next iterations was either the Ultimate Movie 6-pack, where he finally got the cloth cape. It didn't come with the wire, though. It was a cloth cape, but still didn't have a wire. Then he finally did get a wire, but it came in the gold label Target exclusive that came with the Bat Pod. So if people didn't want the Bat Pod, after getting it already like a second or third time, then they were forced to get it at that higher price. That was like, I think, $100, or no, like 80. I think it was like $80. And then if you wanted some kind of single card release of this guy, it would have to be that Skyhook version, but it was a platinum, only found in store. And if you ever found, you ever ended up online, it would be like through Big Bad Toy Store, but they would upcharge that shit to like $40 instead of 20. So now here for $25.99, yeah, it does get upscaled from a standard card release that would have been a few years back, but you do get the felt goods. It's matching the current market conditions because we just have to learn to accept that now the standard price for a single card release is $25.99 or $24.99 in certain avenues. If you're able to find it, like a GameStop or Walmart, ever so often will still do $24.99. It's no longer $20, and we have to accept that. It sucks, but I've come to respect that. And you do get, like I said, a wired cloth, a felt good cape. It's nylon, but it's definitely better than what came before with those Bane pieces. And if you don't plan on, assembling Bane, then there you go. Before we kind of skip to this one, another one that, again, I never heard of anybody say that they wanted to see this guy, unless there's a vocal minority out there that I just completely missed. Medieval Spawn is also part of that McFarlane Vault collection. Again, if I'm to be a little bit on the douchey side, I would just argue that this is probably one of those units that they probably have a shit ton of the warehouse and they know it. But then again, I think they have a shit ton in the warehouse, but they're not necessarily in a hurry because this is owned by Todd himself. This is not part of the DC series, so he's probably just trying to like lump it in there, but like, yeah, let's try to move some of his stuff before it ends up as a rewards option for the rewards points that you can redeem. Now, I want to end off on the one figure that I might pick up. I still haven't made up my mind yet. I haven't pulled the trigger on any of those links, whether it be with Amazon or Big Bad Toy Store or what have you. But this is probably the only pre-order that went up this morning that I might consider, and that's the Bank Robber Joker, since, long story short, it's probably one of the fundamental purposes of this Vault Edition. I missed it, never got around to picking it up. When I found it at like trade shows like Frankenson's, collectible, locations and vendors, it was always upscaled on the price, kicked off a little bit, upcharged. That's the word I was looking for. And so now to see it at the general MSRP of 20, somewhere between 25 and 27, and now you get your second whack at it without any inconvenience, I'm like, all right, you know what? Maybe. You get the mask, you get the outfit. What else did he come with? Alternate head, 2 extra hands. Would have been sick if he came with the bag that he carries into the bank. Might have to rely on a custom for that. But yeah, this is not necessarily a bad pickup here. And then, of course, they toss in the extra Joker head, though not the biggest. It doesn't really move the needle for me in any kind of direction, since it's effectively just the Joker head from the standard release, whether it be the Build-Up Bane edition or the recent Deluxe Theatrical edition. I think they may have percolated the hair to look like it does in that scene. Maybe that's the only difference. But apart from that, like I said, to me, the biggest draw is the fact that I technically don't own this guy. So I may either... And the fact that I haven't pulled the trigger on pre-ordering it just yet makes me think that if anything, it's probably going to be the kind of figure that if I see it in store, then I'll buy it. But until then, I'm probably not motivated strongly enough to actually put it down to pre-order just yet. But again, that is effectively where the net positives kind of relies. The fact that it gives people, like in this situation, the chance of getting a figure. And I'm eager to see what other kind of like suggestions some of you guys have for figures that could be entered into the Vault Edition. Because right now, like I said, it is a net positive, but it does come with a bit of an asterisk, and that asterisk is that there's a likelier chance that this is kind of instigated more or less by the fact that they have to move units, otherwise they might have to destroy leftover stock in their factories, and they definitely don't want to see that happening. I pray Todd reissues the 2025 San Diego Comic Con exclusive Beast Boy. He goes for 500 in the aftermarket. Unless there's leftover stock, I don't see that happening. Big Whopper, welcome to stream. Is that new hat sculpt? That's the thing. Is like, I want to say that maybe they kind of teased the hair to be a little raised up, but apart from that, I don't think so. Well, Skelly Bones, to be honest, I think it was last week that I saw some photos that got leaked of the Vault Edition. It was basically official. It was like those official photos, but they were so low res that they were incredibly pixelated. But whenever I see those, it generally means that all I have to do is just give it a few days, and then McFarlane will post up something official. And sure enough, they did. I just remember that there's two Red Hoods that I want. Otada Boy, I need him to do the new 52 Shiny Helmet Red Hood. Then the Bat Family 5-pack Red Hood with that juicy unmasked head. That 5-pack was... At one point, I almost bought that. But it never went down to a low enough price that I was willing to do it. Because out of that 5-pack, I think I already owned like 2 or 3. Especially that Batman, since it's just 3 Jokers Batman. But there was like one or two. I think the Batgirl also I owned. So that's when I was like, I needed to go down lower, and it never went down. They discounted it a couple times, but it never went down far enough. Pause. But yeah, it just never reached those extremities. And then came holiday time, and I guess enough people needed a Christmas present because it was around that time that it disappeared. I was like, all right. Guess it wasn't meant to be. So I mentioned that some of those pictures. I mentioned that the Vault collection was technically prior to not only today's pre-orders, but also earlier in the week, the initial tease with that little video clip. I actually knew about the Vault collection even further back. I want to say late last week, when a few very pixelated low-res photos of Wonder Woman, Bank Robber Joker, and Dark Knight Batman went up, showing off this very opaque looking logo of the Vault collection. So those photos did get leaked. But because there were low res photos of official product like shots, like the kind of shots that you take inside of the light box, I knew that just around the corner there were going to be confirmation. And by corner, I really don't mean a week. So I'm wondering how much longer it's going to be before we get any kind of, I don't want to say confirmation, but just like where we start to see water tread in our face, or water hold weight. That's the wording I'm looking for. Towards some of these leaks that were technically posted on the subreddit almost 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago, that I just failed to comment on. But I guess maybe it's a blessing in disguise that I waited Since if you look a little carefully amongst this list that's made up of a good 6 pages, Jesus Christ, no, 5 pages, sorry, 5 pages, you'll see that we're starting off with one that legit turned out to be true. The 89 Batmissle, or rather specifically the 92 Batmissle, because I'm certain that the leak was meant to articulate that's supposed to be the Batmissle from Batman Returns because it's Keaton, but they accidentally wrote 89 because we're so used to calling Keaton's Batman 89 Batman, even though Returns technically came out in 92. But you'll notice right there at the very beginning, Batmissle in the leak list. What happens just about a week and a half later? The tease of the Batmissle going live. Pre-orders went live this Tuesday at the extortionist rate of $100. But there it is. The Batmissle. And, this isn't necessarily our first rodeo. There's been a handful of times where documents like this come out and you think to yourself, how true can we take these leaks as gospel? And by default, you should temper your expectations. But the batting average in the past has not been that bad, to be quite frank. Every time a document of this kind circulates, a hefty chunk gets confirmed and either gets confirmed almost right away or it eventually comes to fruition. Like there's been times where like a leak list drops and at least I want to say like around maybe like a fifth of the list gets confirmed within like a week or two in the form of like a wave getting highlighted on social media platforms like X and Instagram and whatnot by McFarlane Toys. And then the remaining 3/4 of the list or whatever starts to, just eventually in droves, well, not droves, but rather like portions over the course of like 2 or 3 months, then starts to get showcased. And if there's some kind of like convention that's somewhere in that area, in that timetable of the year, then it's at that convention that McFarlane and, his team, what's his name? Brad was his name, right? The guy that he does like live streams with. I could be wrong, but Todd and his assistant, I think his name, I want to say his name is Brad. It's not AJ. AJ is the guy that does live streams, and definitely not Claudio. Of which we have some breaking news of. Some breaking news literally right before the stream this happened. But I want to say his name is Brad. When they take the stage up in some of those conventions, then a good chunk of those leak lists finally show up on that giant screen when they talk about them in the form of renders, but they do show up. So let's briefly go through this list. Like I said, this is very interesting that right off the bat we start off with one that ended up coming true, the Batmissle. And then right underneath that, we do get some juicy goodness. Redbird and Robin winter suit. I gotta be honest, I don't know what that is. But underneath there, Batman Panther suit. A.K.a. his actual legit suit from Batman Forever. Finally, the Flash 90 series. So the guy that played Jake Garrick in the CW show, his original 90 series where he's like all buffed up, but he's got the traditional red suit. Linda Carter Wonder Woman, that would be nice. Probably a deluxe theatrical edition. Parademon from the DCEU. Jesus Christ, that's going to be a peg warmer, mark my words. And right underneath there, what I used in the thumbnail that seemed like it had worked, that got people interested, is a figure that has been asked for a few years now. And that is a Peacemaker Vigilante. So not the Vigilante with the Buckaroo Banzai look that we just got recently in the collector's edition or whatever that was. A Vigilante that now most audiences know from Peacemaker in the form of that deluxe theatrical edition. So utilize the yellow trimming of the lettering from the Peacemaker deluxe theatrical and just use that. And now give us the Vigilante with the chainsaw, with his guns, with his blades. Boom. Maybe an alternate, what was his name again? I'm blanking on his name. Holy shit, I'm blanking on Vigilante's name. But his civilian look. And there you go. You got yourself another deluxe theatrical edition. Underneath that one is one that we actually have yet to give us. Actually, after that, we have three. At best, three. Actually, no, a good 4 or 5 names that we have definitely seen in other leaked lists before, and I personally have covered myself. Jim Gordon from Dark Knight. That's a deluxe theatrical edition that comes with the book, handcuffs, and gun. I don't know what the book would be for. What book would he use? What book is that? Catwoman from Batman Returns. That's now rumored to be the battle damage edition because you couldn't just throw in the head in the original version. You had to just go ahead and give us a second figure and a second reason to dump. It's gonna be Superman Returns again, where I literally saw that figure at my local Walmart and I still couldn't pull the trigger on it because something in my gut just kept going, you're paying $25 for our Brandon Routh head. Because the body is just the Christopher Reeve body with a different colorway, and that's it. And it doesn't even come with hands. And I just couldn't do it. And now, $35 for the battle damage Catwoman head. And then if you want the felt good cape, wired cape version of the Pattinson Batman in the deluxe theatrical edition without having to get the Ultimate Movie 6-pack, it looks like that might be coming as well via this section right here. Underneath that, Batman and Robin 2-pack from 66. I don't know if that's going to be in this. That kind of being bundled in this list insinuates that we're getting a 66 Robin in the 7-inch scale, which we have yet to get. We got the Adam West, but we never got a Robin. So, the Burt Ward Robin. What the fuck is even this? Batman Justice League Gold Label. You have to reference another Batman related meme. You know how little that narrows it down. Poison Ivy, Batman and Robin alternate suit, Gold Label. I think it's what I'm trying to remember. What I know that she wore a different outfit in that scene. Was it during the auction where she had like much more flannel-y, like a flannel of some? Well, not a flannel. What material is that? It's like a blouse. She definitely had a different costume during that auction scene. I want to say it's from that. And then another one that people were definitely asking for. I've seen many Reddit posts about Bane from Batman and Robin. The mission for Batman and Robin was to make everything look as action figure prone as possible. You guys painted yourselves in the corner there. Now it's time for the Green Reaper to collect. Give us an action figure of that Bane, because he definitely looks like an action figure in live action. Might as well do it, McFarlane. Likewise, Batman and Robin, Gold Label Deluxe. Hot take, this Mr. Freeze right here, there's a 9 out of 10 chance that it's probably just the Mr. Freeze just, assembled instead of being a Build-A-Figure with a couple of more accessories, maybe alternate head or whatever, just to kind of cut out the middle man the way that they did with Bane. This Mr. Freeze right here, it's probably the same thing as Bane. It's just an assembled version with alternate hands and technically a reissue so that you don't have to get the whole wave. But I would give them mad props for having the balls to give us fluffy slippers and bathrobe Mr. Freeze. When he's conducting the song, fucking do it, Todd. And then underneath that, Batgirl Winter Suit Deluxe. It's probably that. Oh, this also insinuates that we're probably going to get those winter suits at the end of Batman and Robin. The Penguin, HBO The Penguin suit. So, new outfit, but more importantly, please overhaul that head sculpt. If you guys remember that Penguin figure from the Batman wave from 2022, clean that shit up, because that thing was atrocious. It sat on the peg for a reason. Batman Returns Unmasked Deluxe, just like with Catwoman. That ripped off head sculpt that they could have just tossed in so that we could just pop it off and pop it back on. Nope. Buy a new figure, of course. Clark Kent, 79, I think that meant to say 78, opening shirt, so a Christopher Reeve Clark Kent figure, not a Superman figure, but open shirt, so that I actually might pick up. if he's got swappable parts to where you can remove the torso, so yeah, he looks like normal Christopher Reeve, but then you can remove the arms, remove the torso, the head, or some kind of like chest plate, so this whole part comes off, but then you put on a chest plate that then has the open shirt. And then, of course, you can swap out the hands to then look like he's gripping onto it. That might be a day one cop. That actually might be up my alley, because you guys know how much I love my transformative figures, where you can swap pieces in and out. And then very quick here before I go back to the chat to catch up on you guys' chats here. Page Punchers. Oh yeah, this has actually also been been in the rumor mill for quite some time now. Page Puncher, 89 Batman, 89 Two-Face, 89 Robin. So basically what could have been the original Robin, I don't know which version of Robin this is prior to the Schumacher one, but this Two-Face is supposedly because was there a Robin in the 89 comic? Because that's effectively what these three are. It's basically the 89 comic tie-in. So it's going to be that version of Batman, and this Two-Face is going to be the Billy D. Williams Two-Face, which is probably going to be the one that's going to do most buku bucks out of those three, because people would really love to have a figure of the what would have been Tim Burton's Batman 3, effectively. I can't remember who was Robin in that comic, though, so you guys are going to have to help me out with that. And then after that, Alex Ross Batman, Alex Ross Superman, which I think we've kind of already gotten to an extent. Or have we? We've gotten Kingdom Come Superman, right? We technically have gotten Kingdom Come Batman, but it was him in the suit. He wasn't like an actual Alex Ross. This Alex Ross Batman might be a pickup for me. If he has just a very traditional suit, but he just has the physique that Alex Ross is known for drawing, without all the mechanical getup that he had in that like winged suit from Kingdom Come, then okay, that might be a pickup. Batman first appearance, just reissuing the first appearance again with the pink gloves or the blue gloves, and then Nightwing. I don't know what that is. Then we get to the other pages. Now, thankfully, the other pages are a little bit on the shorter side, but like I said before, I'll move on. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. So pregnant, right? Skelly Bones, calm down. Yeah, so that 66 Robin, the only way to get to that 7-inch 66 Robin would be to get a 2-pack. I will admit it's a little scummy, but it is what it is. Big Rig, welcome to the stream. Mike Rios, welcome. My top of the moment, Batman and Catwoman battle versions from Batman Returns. Clark 79. Linda Carter, Wonder Woman. Yeah, I'm surprised by how much I kind of convinced myself to want to get that 78 Clark Kent, because like I said, the potential for swappable parts so that he looks like a regular civilian Clark Kent, but then have the option to then change it into the way that Mayfix has it. That Batman Hush, yeah, I think it's Batman Hush Mayfix Superman, where he looks like Clark Kent, but then he's got the swappable parts to have the shirt open. That would be sick. It's so sick that I don't think that McFarlane will do it. It only makes so much sense. Damn. Sorry, I just saw the headline that Bungie lost Sony $765 million on fucking Marathon. Gee, who would have guessed? Come on, guys. I feel bad for if I I don't mean this as a put down or as a joke, but if I was a Bungie employee, I would literally start putting together the resume, like right now. Marlon Wayans was Robin in the comic. By the way, welcome, Blood Lycan. Love your name. He was. Okay, are you fucking with me? Cause yeah, he was like a black teenager, but I don't see Marlon Wayans. I just see he's black and he's a teenager, but I don't see like the resemblance to Marlon Wayans or anything. The only one that I can easily recognize is, of course, Billy D. Williams as Two Face, which would be a killer figure. I probably would pick that up. And to be honest, this Robin doesn't look too bad either. I just don't see Marlon Wayans. Unless, like I said, you're just screwing with me. But look-wise, it's not bad. No, this guy. Yeah, because like, hold on, is there a different? Oh, here we go. Tight fade. Not a bad outfit. The kind of Drake Winston was his name. Was that his name? Somehow, some way, they always managed to put in the word Drake in there. Tim Drake, Drake Weston. The next Robin should be named Kendrick. Son of a bitch. Was he like Blood Lycan? Was his So obviously, I don't see the resemblance in the '89 comic, but was he rumored to be cast as Robin when they were, initially had plans to make the third Tim Burton Batman before they tossed it um, to Schumacher? Oh wait, Mike Rios. I'm so sorry. I just saw your comment. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I take that back. I take that question back. I just saw your comment, Mike Rios. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So it was for Burton's. Okay. And then there's Blood Like it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. God damn it. I am. Hey, I'm over 40. I'm close to 40. Well, not close to 40, but like I'm inching more towards 40. I'm 34. Going to be 35 this year. So my eyes take a little while to get up there. Not the bad Sony news. Yeah, and I'm sorry, Brian's the dishwasher, but right now Sony kind of deserves it after their stupid 30-day thing and then raising the PS5 prices. And I'm like, and now the raising of the PS5 prices makes sense because it's like, oh, because you're losing money, so you're taking it out on us. Get fucked. At this rate, I'm probably never getting a PS5 Pro. I'm sticking with my base PS5. Yeah, sticking with my base PS5, and when GTA 6 comes out, I'm just going to play it on that. They're made to order. Interesting. would want a true Black Mask, Mr. Freeze, and Nightwing, and Arkham Line. Arkham Line can pass for comic 2 anyways. Well, here, let's go back to that leak list, because that's the one thing that I am sort of feeling a little bit bad of, is the fact excuse me, is the fact that I haven't seen any kind of Arkham representation. So I'm like, can we change that? Is there a likelihood for that to change, please? So on this second page, which is exponentially smaller, Deluxe. So I can imagine that this is Deluxe theatrical, although there's some comic stuff here, so probably just collector's edition. I don't know. Wonder Woman 80s New 52 Chase, Poison Ivy DC Classic. Maybe there's that, definitive Poison Ivy that people have been asking for. Harley Quinn DC Classic, Hawkgirl Kendra New 52, Wonder Girl Classic Red Black Chase, Mira DC Classic chases a different shade of green, comes with water effect base. Black Manta DC Raven. That Raven's gonna get picked up for completely the wrong reasons. And then an entry that I have seen on a league list before, so this one's probably likelier to come sooner than later. Superman Red and Blue 2-pack. I don't know what the question marks are, but then it says gold label. So I don't know. I just know that this term right here, Superman Red and Blue, I've seen it already for sure once, maybe twice before. Then we get a much longer list. Now, this is supposed to be regular figures, so meant to be single carded, no deluxe, no collectors, no page puncher, just meant to be at the 25 to 27 price point. We start off with the most generic entries here. Bruce Wayne and Wonder Woman with question marks. Thanks a lot, leaker. I don't know. It makes me wonder how much time did they have to write this down before they had to log off the computer. Or wherever it is that their source was, or whatever kind of tangential piece of evidence, or if they were meeting the hooded Kermit in the parking lot, like that meme. But then afterwards it says Catwoman from Silver Age, Poison Ivy DC Classic. One of these is Greenskin. I feel like that sounds similar to the one from the previous slide. Hawkgirl and Green Arrow again question marks. Black Canary and Green Arrow 2-pack. Ra's al Ghul, Ghul spelled weird, DC Classic. Big Barda, even though that has question marks on it, the fact that a Big Barda figure is in development, that's pretty nice, especially since we just got recently Mr. Miracle, I think was his name. So those two should pair very well. Hawk and Dove 2-pack. Solomon Grundy. Oh, hello. Solomon Grundy versus Alan Scott 2-pack. Along with the Batmissile, that guy is in fact real and just went up for pre-order recently. I think the same day as the Batmissile. That was real. So ever since the Batmissile on that first page, we finally got our next one that did manifest. The Solomon Grundy versus Alan Scott 2-pack. Okay. Plastic Man, black shorts, new and big in parts. Which part though? The question, Go Label, that should probably just be a reissue because we technically already got them before. Beast Boy, Go Label, question mark. Hey, is that the San Diego Comic-Con version? I doubt it. Because the San Diego Comic-Con version, I think, came with the extra pieces. The whole point as to why it was a collector's edition. Sentinel, Alan Scott, Green Lantern Chase. Black Mask Chase. Red Hood, Under the Red Hood. That might catch my interest just a tiny bit. Kid Flash, Red Outfit, Brainiac, DC Classic, Sinestro, DC Classic, Black Adam, Modern Age. What does Modern Age mean? Is that The Rock? No, it can't be The Rock. They already made those figures. Robin, Silver Age, Bane, DC Classic, Gold Label. Bro. Is that same fucking Bane mold that we've gotten already, 3 times? But it's in such high demand, why not put it out again? Doomsday, Death of Superman, Gold Label. That actually might be kind of interesting. His specific look from Death of Superman, that actually might be kind of neat. And then more Batman Hush. Yippee. Harley Quinn, Catwoman, Gold Label, Oracle, Jim Gordon, Alfred, Poison Ivy, Mad Hatter, Red Hood. I breezed through that list because not only are there no Batmans there, but frankly, At the same time, I don't want there to be Batman since this is specifically the Batman Hush. So if you're going for like a complete Batman Hush wave collection, rejoice, because you're finally going to get the other characters in that series. I personally don't care. Teen Titans Classic Tales, Donna, Troy, Raven, Cyborg, Jericho, Robin, Starfire. So if you are a massive fan of Teen Titans, they got your back right there. Now, again, some specificity is definitely required here, because then we get a section here that's called lanterns. Is this is when they wrote it there as lanterns? Does that mean, in a very general sense, just the lanterns from the comics, or are they specifically talking about the upcoming show? I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say that this is just a very general comics, like part of the DC universe as a whole, figure wave, and not specifically the HBO Max show. Because if it is the HBO Max show, then there are some major spoilers in mentioning these names as a whole, which is why I fear that there's just so many names here that they wouldn't risk putting them out there prior to R&Ding them. Should there even be figures of the Lantern show? Because something tells me that they're not. I don't know why, but I'm finding it very difficult for McFarlane to spend time and money and effort on making figures of the Aaron Pierre and Kyle Chandler figures. I don't know why. I don't think that they would. I think they would rather. I think the better strategy would be to do this, which is to just make Green Lantern figures from the comics, but just have that branding to kind of percolate in people's mind. Like, oh yeah, I just watched the Lantern show. Now I'm kind of interested in Green Lantern comics. Let me read up on the comics, and then going into the information rabbit hole of Green Lanterns, they're going to look at these figures and be like, yeah, I'll pick up some Green Lantern figures, and that's their market business strategy. So under this list, you have Black Hand, Star Sapphire, Indigo, Atrocious, I think they meant to say Atrocitus, and Red Lantern, Hal Jordan 2-pack, Green Lantern, Medfell, Naut Kiloi, I'm going to be butchering these names, Tomar Ray, would actually be kind of neat, Kyle Rayner, Modern, and Sinestro. Is this the last page? It is the last page. All right, guys, last page. And there's our Arkham representation. 2 entries. Deathstroke from Arkham Origins, so a reissue of Deathstroke if you guys missed out on that original release, which I technically do have, but this time he's going to come with a new gun. I'm going to have to see that colorway. The fact that it puts it in parentheses saying new gun, it kind of gives me the vibe that they're just going to dig up that old figure and just reissue it. It would be sick if they could just retool it, if it's like a brand new remake of a figure of some kind, but from a business standpoint, would that make sense? No. It would make much more sense to just dig up those old blueprints, remanufacture the original figure from, what was it, 2021 when that came out? And instead of the sword, instead of the katana, he'll come with a gun. Or he'll come with both. But then that's it. It's the same figure. And I'm getting the vibe that it's the same figure. The fact that in parentheses they have to indicate new gun. And what makes matters even worse is the entry underneath that. Batman, Arkham Knight. What could you possibly pull from Arkham Knight? What kind of Batman can you pull up from Arkham Knight? We need some specificity, and there was none here of what this Batman could be. Because the actual core Arkham Knight Batman, we've gotten, what, now 3 times? The original, the recent Prestige Edition, and I believe there's a Gold Edition. And that's it. So, my money, again, ballsy, but I don't think that they'll do it, is if this Arkham Knight right here is officially the post-city suit from the beginning of the game. From the first, how long is it? Like hour or 2 hours before he finally drop ships the V8.04, whatever it's called, but basically the mechanized main Arkham Knight suit. Unless it's that. But otherwise, I'm getting the strong sense that this is just a reissue. or some kind of, oh my god, what if it's that Fortuna, whatever it's called, basically that black and red suit that Hot Toys made, and it's just that. So it's just the 2021 figure, but just all black with red accents, which, don't get me wrong, would be a cool colorway, but I don't know if I would want to pick that up day one, because it's like, all right, it's just the same figure. You guys didn't, and that figure has some. As much as I have fond memories of that figure, it's got some buck ass legs that definitely need some retooling, and those ankles need a bit of an overhaul. There's some very frustrating mechanics happening with those legs in terms of positioning him. The cape is awfully top heavy unless you're giving him a brand new nylon wired cape. That'll be sick. But otherwise, I'm like, unless you guys put in the effort, if this is just the same figure from 2021, but either reworked paint apps, or it's meant to be that, like I said, that Futurama. I don't want to call it Futurama, but that Fortuna, whatever, it started with an F. But that black with red accents one that even Hot Toys made, I'm good. And then that's it. But let me make myself a bit happy by going to the next entry, which is Batman #1, 2026, which I think he meant to say 2025 because technically the comic run started last year in I want to say on my birthday month, August. Unless I'm wrong, this is heavily insinuating that McFarlane is finally working on a Fraction Jimenez Batman. So the current Batman that's happening right now, the mainline Batman comic that I'm reading, effectively, that's what this is. And let me go ahead and bring up an image here while I also look at... I also have to be careful because the newest... issue number 9 just came out, I think, this past Wednesday. So I got to be careful what I see here because I don't want to spoil. That's the only comic I've yet to read. The only issue I've yet to read. This guy. The blue and sort of opaque grayish suit. That's basically the main suit going on right now. If that leak list is to be believed, they are currently working on this suit. And I'm like, yeah, this is one of the few Batmans that I actually do have on my desirable list. The only way that my heart could be broken is unfortunately a very believable way, a believable method. Which is that at the end of the day, McFarlane simply just ends up taking the goddamn Nightmare Buck and just recoding it with the paint finish to accommodate this Batman, and just gives us a new sculpt for the bat symbol and the head and the utility belt. But in terms of like the main tooling of the Buck, it's just the Nightfall Buck. The Nightfall Buck. Again, that's the only way that I could be utterly disappointed if that, like I said, if that version of the leak is to be believed. Okay. So let's go back to that list before I depress myself and, like I said, continuing to think that that's probably going to be the likely scenario that it ends up being the Nightfall Buck. Underneath that, New 52 Batman. Didn't we already get him? Kelly Jones Batman. Now that Kelly Jones and Neil Adams, those two in the middle right there. I could be wrong. Somebody please tell me if I'm wrong. But I don't think we've gotten those iterations of that art style in McFarlane Toys form. I could be wrong, but those coming to fruition would be kind of nice. And then Batman Kryptonite and Long Halloween. Same thing with Long Halloween. That would be actually a pretty good. I'm actually kind of surprised that we haven't had Long Halloween Batman. What does Batman Kryptonite look like? There we go. Hey, that's not right. Is that right? Didn't we already get that in a 2-pack? Are they just gonna take that and make it a single release? The one from Batman Beyond? This? Because if it is, then okay, then skip me with that. Because if this is what that in the list is, we already got it. It was just part of a 2-pack that came with I can't remember his Lord. No, was it Lord Superman or whatever this is called? This Superman with the white symbol. Just the Lord Superman. We already got him. Yeah, because I just typed in Batman Kryptonite. Or is it this one? Somehow I should just expect it to be this. That would be nice if it's this. But that's just him holding the kryptonite. I don't know what comic arc this is. And then Long Halloween suit. I think somebody even made a mod. Look at that. That's a Photoshop concept of what McFarlane would look like. Although, what's going on with the diaper piece there? But yeah, it's supposed to look like more or less like this. I could see it. I could see it. Maybe add some paintworks to kind of give it some broader depth on the abdominal and the musculature. I could probably buy into that. Yeah, so definitely more Batman on the horizon, but out of that entire list there in that last section, it's definitely the 2026 Batman, followed closely by the Neil Adams, Kelly Jones, which is the one, I think the version with the long ears, I could be wrong, and Long Halloween. You can miss me with New 52 and Batman Kryptonite. Those sound like reissues. If anything, this Batman wave right here in the middle, it sounds like another. Don't be surprised if we don't hear about this wave at all, and then out of nowhere, and I don't say this meanly, I say this as a good thing. Out of nowhere, Ahsoka the Geek gets the hook and posts the photo just like he did with that recent. Something tells me it's going to be a similar thing, where it's going to be this wave, and Todd is just going to probably secretly just drop it at Walmart, and Ahsoka the Geek or Brad the DC Universe geek, or Brad the DC nerd, however his name is, just randomly gets the hookup and showcases it, and that's their method of unveiling it. And then just a few days later, boom, the initial promo photos for the figures go up via McFarlane's official socials, and they put up a date for pre-orders. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens with this wave here. Then we got more Ross drops, so the bubble packaging, the bubble retro cards, Superman DC Classic, a lot of Superman first appearance, Supergirl from the movie? Already? Ross drop? Damn. Batman Superman Fusion, that's expected. Yeah. Superman Solar Suit, and then that Flesher Superman. Which, honestly, as a Ross drop, I might pick up that Flesher Superman. I missed out the original single card release, but the single card release only came with hands. So if I'm willing to sacrifice the hands and probably that Felt Good cape, then for, what was it? $15 or $13? Maybe. And then closing out the list is the potential SDCC exclusive this year, which is some kind of Kilowog with question marks. And they put Yellow Lantern? I don't know. At this point, I think the leakers just kind of making their own educated guess. But that is it. And those were the leaks. Unfortunately, inside of that leak list, once again, no mention of an absolute Batman, who I think just had another issue drop. And still nothing. And Skelly Bones, I saw your comment. Love how they're doing Arkham stuff after LPCC came in swinging. They're still not doing enough, though. It's a crumb. Two figures, one of which is almost for sure a reissue, which is the Deathstroke. And then the other one has, I guess, maybe a greater chance of being a brand new figure. But at the same time, I'm already expecting it to be, like I said, that black and red version. Glow in the dark Batman. I don't want to glow in the dark because I'm kind of over those. Why do I have this on? I'm not even watching anything. Kind of over the glow in the dark gimmick because it just kind of inflates the price. They sometimes kind of sweeten the deal with those like little lights that they pack into the box. But again, it just kind of upcharges the price, makes the whole thing exclusive, and then eventually you'll start seeing them show up at like Ross or whatever. So I'm like, skip out on all that stuff and just focus on the stuff that people want. And we kind of have some good stepping stones in that direction of things that people want in this list. More so than your typical leak list. I would argue that's the things. At the end of the day, this leak list is actually not bad. It truly isn't. It's probably good enough to make me forget about that egregiously priced Batmissle that is also included in this list. And it's because of its inclusion in this list, along with that Alan Scott, Solomon Grundy 2-pack, that definitely gives a little bit of weight to this leak list. And that's, again, going back to the theme of today's stream in regards to McFarlane and what they're currently doing. Generally a net positive. But there's still, I would say that what makes up this leak list that I constitute as pretty good outings, pretty good pre-orders and, materials and figures that we would want to see, I'd argue is leaning more towards like the 60 to 65%, but we still have a hefty 35 to 40% chunk in there that is stuff that I look at and I go, why? No, why? So, but that's just me. And yeah, I was just about to segue that. Earlier I said that we had some breaking news right before the stream related to the reps over there at McFarlane that I was referencing, because I was saying that I was trying to think of the name of the guy who does the live streams with Todd whenever they do, I'm sorry, not the live streams, but they do the presentations whenever they do cons, whenever they show up at WonderCon, Comic-Con, etc. Who's the guy that's always with him? I think his name is Brad, but it could be wrong. It's definitely not AJ, Claudio, or John, because that's the name of the guys that show up during the live streams on the McFarlane Toys episodes. And how appropriate that I bring them up, because breaking news right before I went live, like literally 10 minutes before I went live. The next McFarlane Toys show has been announced, episode 13, for next Friday, May 15 at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, which seems to be like the new sweet spot, because I think I want to say the last 2 or 3 streams that they've done of the McFarlane Toys show has been at 12 p.m. So I don't think they're ever going to really change that, save for certain specific scenarios, like whenever they do a con, like probably whenever they hit up San Diego Comic-Con and they live stream that, they're probably going to do something that's a little bit later in the day to accommodate both coasts. But so far, the last 2 have been at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, and this one seems no different. However, this one is going to be specifically tailored to Mortal Kombat. Likely to tie into the new movie, since the movie just dropped, which is, from what I hear, is actually getting pretty good reviews. Cool. I may actually end up checking it out. But the only sour note about this is that this means that we're probably going to have to wait a little longer to get any kind of concrete information on any of the DC figures that we covered on the league list. Because if the next, yeah, that's the thing is like, say for example, I went live and this announcement wasn't made, I would have easily said, hey, with this league list, it's probably just a matter of time before we get the next toy show live stream announced, and they're gonna say that they got some reveals to cook up regarding the DC license, or regarding DC Multiverse, regarding Deluxe Theatrical, yada yada yada. Cool, looking forward to it. And then right when I'm prepping to go live, I see this and I'm like, well, now I should just dash those hopes and put them on ice for at least another, for probably until Comic-Con, if I'm being honest, actually. Now that we just entered May, I think we're kind of on the safe track in believing that we're not going to hear anything from that league list until Comic-Con, which is a good while away. It is kind of far away, but also kind of not. It's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, now we have to wait 2.5 months. On paper, that sounds like a long time. When you're a 34, almost 35-year-old like myself, 2.5 months is gonna go like that. It sounds and feels hefty right now, but dude, as I said in the live stream, I feel like we just barely got done with the discourse around the Stranger Things finale. That was New Year's Day. That was 4 fucking months ago, and it's already been 4 months since that finale, and I feel like we just barely stopped talking about it. And right when we barely stopped talking about it, Netflix and the Duffer Brothers decided to brew it all up again with that animated series they're about to drop. But yeah, so the confirmation of the show means that we're gonna have to wait even longer, probably till Comic-Con, for any more information regarding those leaks and any of the more desirable figures out of that listing. If we're being brutally, completely transparent. In regards to this show, since it's just Mortal Kombat, and I ended up getting incredibly disappointed by the turnaround on the classic series, I'm probably am I gonna watch it? Very likely. Is it cause for a live stream onto itself? Not really. So if you guys are thinking I'm going to cover this live or go live after it's done and kind of skirting through it again, probably not. Because the last time I did that, it was for the Fallout live stream, and it kind of turned out to be a nothing burger. I mean, yeah, there were things that were announced for like the Fallout figures, but it barely broke any ground. It barely, like I said, moved the needle in any kind of direction for me. I was just kind of like, yeah, all right, that exists. And the same thing with the Mortal Kombat Classics wave, which, again, it's disappointing for me to say, considering that I was a huge advocate of this wave when it was first unveiled. When they said that, hey, we're doing classics figures going back to the original Mortal Kombat in the 90s, awesome. And then literally as soon as they said, yeah, each figure's $30, and they showed what was in the box, I was like, guys, you just shot yourselves in not just one foot, you shot yourselves in both feet, threw a kunai through your hands, got a sword slashed down your chest, and your ribcage opened up. Fatality. Flawless execution. I didn't say victory because it's not a victory since nobody's winning here. And yeah, to this day, I still have not picked up any other Mortal Kombat Classics figures. I'm waiting to see if maybe they'll float by Ross or DD's, because again, at $30 for effectively what's a single card figure that you would expect out of DC Multiverse, only one accessory, like for example, Scorpion just comes with a kunai with a rope on it, and that's it. No bonus hands, no kind of fire effect, no nothing. It's like, I can't. In my body, I just can't. And to see that the next toy show is just dedicated to that, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, and here's the thing. You would think that you would say, hey, what if they tease something DC at the end? Okay, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but right now I have no reason to believe that they're going to do that. Why? Because the last Fallout show that I skimmed over, I thought maybe they were going to do that there, and they didn't. Which, I'm not going to say they lied, because technically they didn't lie. They never said that they were going to tease something else. No, they just said that they were just going to cover Fallout. I was just hoping that they would pull a Columbo and be like, one more thing at the end. But they didn't. And that's not their fault. That was just my expectations. I was just raising my expectations a little too high, and they just didn't do it. And I was like, well, okay, now I know that they don't do that kind of thing. They don't want to step on the toes of the IP. So I'm like, all right, since they don't float that way, then I should look at this and go, they're just going to talk about Mortal Kombat, and at that point, I shouldn't expect anything DC related. Move on. Get that out of your head right now. And again, not throwing flack at them, because technically they did not lie, they didn't misinform. I was just expecting something different, and that ended up not happening. But yeah, judging by the description here, before I actually switch it off, join AJ, Claudio, and John for a Mortal Kombat special episode of the McFarlane Toy Show. We'll cover where we started, where we are at, and where we are going with the Mortal Kombat Classic line. All Classic line series related. Plus, we'll have some awesome reveals from our other... I'll skim it over. Because this is not enough to go live for it, if I'm being honest. But then I got to that last sentence. Awesome reveals from our other brands, giveaways, and much, much more. You're killing me, Smalls. Right now, I'm actually going to go ahead and just say no. I'm not going to live stream this, and I don't intend on going live next week solely for just this. If LPZZ in art reveals something and there's enough topics to talk about that I can lump together and go, okay, while we're here, let's talk about the McFarlane Toy Show, then sure. For now, I would say just assume that I won't. Assume that I won't. How about that? God damn it. They will show Elite Edition Absolute Batman at the end of the show. Trust. Imagine the Mortal Kombat series ends with no. No. That sounds like a Comic-Con reveal. I would feel much safer in assuming that they would do something like that at the end of at Comic-Con. Fuck it, we'll do it live. I already heard the animated show is so bad. What animated show? Yeah, I mean, it says right there from our other brands. What could that mean? What could that actually factually mean? God damn it. Oh, you can buy tickets to Summer Games Fest? Interesting. I mean, they can go fuck themselves because it's run by Jeff Keighley, and Jeff Keighley sucks. Look at that. You can buy them. Yeah, I gotta be honest. They're not that terribly priced. $56? It's not the worst. But no. I don't want to give Jeff Keighley money. After the amount that he robbed from... what the fuck is wrong with my map? Oh, here we go. After what he did to that studio for High Guard, they're gonna reveal the next wave in the Vault collection. That sounds more tangential to what they could do at that Mortal Kombat stream next week. Yeah. One thing that could help the likelihood of me going live next week is because my dad is taking a vacation. He's taking days off. He's taking the whole week off next week from work. And you guys, as I've said in live streams before, between my two parents, my dad's the one that will actually go out of his way to be annoying and not let me stream and do anything. But, so you're thinking, oh God, he's going to be at home all day, all week next week. Officially, yeah, from vacation, that's what would happen on paper. But whenever he does that, sometimes my parents actually decide to go on a trip. If that happens, that means I'm at home by myself. Which means that increases the chances of me going live next week. So, I'll play it by ear. Maybe I'll do like a community post or whatever. But, we'll see. We'll see. So if that happens, I might end up going live like towards the end of the night, when more people can drop on by, more people are free, they don't have to worry about work or school, what have you. Wow. So those were the main topics. I technically have, pull up my Google Keep here. I think I technically have, where are you? That's not my list. That's my food list. Yeah, oh, actually, you know what? It's probably a good thing that I waited on this topic. I kind of foreshadowed it last week. But I didn't really talk about it in very broad strokes. But I feel like we kind of have a few minutes here at the end. Because I didn't think I was going to go through the main topics that quickly. Where did I save it? I think I saved it on Instagram. Let me go to Instagram. Because I think there were more photos over there. Because the company in question here is Beast Kingdom, and I noticed that Beast Kingdom is much more active on Instagram than they are on Twitter. On Twitter, they barely post, but on Instagram, they'll post like a shit ton. Where did I see it? Was it not here, or was it was it here, or was it Twitter? Hold on, guys, I'm trying to look for it. Yeah. Why did it not favorite? That's weird. Unless I figured it on the wrong account. Here we go. Okay. So I guess we can then squeeze in this other topic. One that, like I said, I kind of foreshadowed last week. I kind of like breezed on through it, but maybe it's kind of a good thing that I punted it off, since it looks like not only do we get better looking photos, a much stronger carousel photo, so to speak, but along with that, they also opened up pre-orders across the board, ranging from the official site to then Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store here in the US. Beast Kingdom is dipping once again into the Snyderverse, and they opened pre-orders for their BVS Affleck Batman. And here it is, officially labeled as DAH 147. What do you guys think? This is the initial photo. They only had like 2 photos, I think, last time, but now we got this was actually officially, this post went up last night, technically 13 hours ago. But this was effectively the post that I was more so kind of waiting for, since the initial one only had like 2-3 photos, and it also got bundled with Henry Cavill Superman from BVS. But it didn't really give me a really in-depth look at the figure the way that I wanted to, especially with high-res photos. But now we actually got a proper photo dump, along with, again, pre-orders pretty much more or less opening up. Slated to ship Q3 2026, so starting maybe in September-ish, October-ish, more like. I guess officially it could also be August, but let's face it, it's probably going to be September. So, out of curiosity, let me see if I can copy this link to BBTS. Oh, I'll go to it afterwards, but let me show off these photos first. And this is meant to be a 2.0 version because I think there was an original version, but this is meant to be an overhaul. And judging off of the overhaul, one thing I will give them is that they definitely look like they locked in a little bit better on the texture work when it comes to that skin-like kind of motif for the lining of the suit that the Ben Affleck BVS Batman was known for. And overall, I generally do see that translating very well as far as like I said, the texture, the wrinkling, the colorway. But if there's one thing that Beast Kingdom is known for is kind of taking the scale and kind of elongating it a little bit more. They're almost like they're kind of reminiscent of Fonjoy's where they're almost like 1/9. So they're kind of like 8-ish inches, 8.5 inches or whatever. And Beast Kingdom kind of taps into that. Except at least with Fonjoy, they kind of keep the proportions still sort of in check. Beast Kingdom, ever so often, it doesn't happen with every single Batman, but I noticed that sometimes it's almost like they take the figure and in Photoshop they hold down the shift key and they elongate and raise the height, but because they held down the shift key instead of also taking the proportions with them, they simply just stretch the figure. And as such, it kind of looks like he's a little stretched out in terms of proportions. He looks a little too skinny for this to be the Batfleck version, if I'm being honest. Because I'm looking at these legs, and then most definitely I'm looking at the torso, especially with that bat symbol. This part right here, it looks like he just decided to focus on arms and legs at the gym, but he didn't work on core of any kind. He didn't work on the back, he didn't work on the chest, maybe the abs a little bit, but that's it. And the way that the cape is kind of floating here towards the top, I definitely have some reservations about that. Yeah, a little bit of parting here when moving the legs about. At least a good way of blending in the joints because of the way that the texture's done. Alright, sorry about that, guys. So my parents still use VHS tapes to like tape their shows and watch their shit. And right now, like right by the hall right here, my mom chooses to like rewind the tape the manual way. And I'm like, why the fuck are you doing that here in the hall? You can't go to the living room to do that? I can hear it. It's interrupting me. It's like, hello? Could you leave? Not too familiar with Beast Kingdom. The suit texture looks good. Maybe just stick with LPZ. And yeah, the chest needs to be bigger, bigger boobs. I mean, effectively, yes, because yeah, something about that look. It just looks kind of flat. The texture work is great, and even the head sculpt, I can kind of see Affleck a little bit in there. But again, the top part of this cape right here, this piece right here, it's just floating a little bit too much. It doesn't look like it's congruent enough. The paneling. Also, I'm sorry, but this is going to sound super persnickety. But look at the knee bend. So you mean to tell me you're only going to texturize the part that's exposed, but then leave the rest kind of smooth? It just reeks of lazy. I'm sorry. I know it sounds super privileged, super entitled, but it just that's the optics that look like to me. It's laziness when, and you know, I'm not saying that I'm gonna excuse other companies. Again, you know, some of you bring up to a really good point McFarlane when he decks out a good airbrush kind of motif with the paint apps on the front, but then he doesn't do them on the back because the back of the figure is going to be covered with the cape. And nobody's going to really see the back part. You're not going to really pose it with because the cape is covering the figure, because the figure's being covered up. So you're not going to really see the back of that over there. And I'm like, who gives a shit? You're halfway there. Just finish it. And it's not in, you know, I know we can kind of get a little pick and choosy, but we're not even talking about the whole figure. We're talking about like this back plate right here and the back of the legs, and that's it. You know, we're not counting the diaper. We're definitely not counting the belt because that's already a separate piece manufactured. And definitely not the gauntlets and the boots. We're talking about like here, the back, and then the back of the legs, and that's it. We're not even talking about 50%. We're talking about like 30% more paint finish. Does that really crank up those dollars? I guess they do. There he is in scale. Oh yeah, I was right. 8.2 inches. Yeah, so there's a scale. And I know this because technically I do have two Beast Kingdom figures. I have the Flash Keaton Batman, so the older Batman, and the Batman Returns Batman, because I genuinely was really impressed with those head sculpts. They really did look like little mini Hot Toys. But the bodies were, I think one of them actually did end up breaking, and I had to go back to Mike's Toys and Stuff in Orange, California. Shout out to Mike's Toys and Stuff, who hooked me up with a replacement. He had a replacement. Within a day or so, I contacted him saying, hey, broke. Can I come in to just exchange it? I don't want to return it. I just want exchanged. Swap it out. And he did. Accommodated me. Thankfully, the second unit didn't break. And that was already after like doing the whole passing of the hair dryer and all that stuff, and it still broke. It was really fragile. I barely touched it. So yeah, ever since those two Beast Kingdoms, I gotta be honest, they kind of been putting me off, and I haven't really bought one since. I really haven't. So, and I don't know if this BVS Batman is going to move again. I know I've said this phrase already a handful of times during today's stream, but it's nevertheless true. It hasn't really moved the needle too much for me. Including the accessories that are just very par for the course. If we go back to this photo here, the alternate hands, the grapple gun with the grapple hook separated, the cable to kind of give it that extra bit of life with the extension. Only one battering. I kind of wish we could have gotten two, at least. Or at most, even. I wouldn't even need three. At least an extra one. Just one more. But just one. I'm like, But I guess easy to kind of keep it in place and not lose it. And then the grenade launcher, or the kryptonite grenade launcher. So, pretty interesting assortment accessories. But like I said, after a little while, you start to get a little bit of fatigue with this version of the character. So, have it to come out here late in the game, even at the under the label of it being a 2.0. I'm like, it might be too little too late that your resources should be put elsewhere, or you need to come out of the gate swinging. And the proportions don't indicate that. Along with, again, some slightly lazy optics in regards to those knees, and probably by proxy the elbows. I think if you bend the elbows, I'm going to see a little bit of that, where you only have the texture here, but then the rest of the joint is just completely plastic. I'm like, you guys were there, and, you know, you're kind of giving me the vibe that you guys are just churning this out. And how much is this? That's one bit of credit that I'll give Beast Kingdom, is that at least they're not super extortionist with their prices because they generally list them at about $50. I believe I paid $50 for those two Keaton Batmans that I got from Mike's Toys and Stuff. $50 each. And this one's actually technically even cheaper, $45.99. Granted, I don't know how I feel about BBTS taking a non-refundable deposit of $460. Okay, but I guess it includes the tariff surcharge in there. Weird. How much does Entertainment Earth have it for? Same, $45.99. Estimated to arrive October. Get out of here. Yeah, same photos pretty much. Oh no, this is kind of new. And the likeness to Affleck is actually not too bad. It's not the greatest, but it's also not too bad either. It kind of looks like what maybe McFarlane would have stuck with after that first Justice League Batman if they just didn't start going in a weird direction. But there's still, like I said, some details that I have huge reservations about that I think they should hopefully overhaul before they start mass producing. But at the same time, coming around the corner in October, I'm like, might be too late. And then, Pepe Instigator, your bro got a secret account. Well, it's not really secret, honestly. I have two Instagram accounts. The main one, Dark Spider David 91, where I mostly post stuff that has to do with content. That's where I do my correspondences regarding stuff for the channel and etc. And then I have just my, like I said, it's not a secret account. You could probably find it, but my personal account where I post photos of myself, my girlfriend, food, that kind of stuff. Also highly anticipating your UPF Batman Who Laughs review. You saw it, huh? Right. Finally got it. Came in from Toys Metaverse. Took a good while because I think it shipped last two. Let me look at my calendar here. This finally came in, I think, on Wednesday? No, Tuesday. Yeah, it was Tuesday. But it shipped like the 23rd or the 24th. So just a little under 2 weeks. But it wasn't, I can honestly say it wasn't Toys Metaverse. Like something was going on with GoFo, the people that were in charge of the transit of the package. I'm like, guys, what are you doing? So yeah, but it finally arrived. More or less minty. There's one tiny little dent right here, but it's super tiny that I can almost kind of forgive it. But apart from that, Dark Knight's Metal, Batman Who Laughs, UPF, or LPZZ/UP Find Yours/Fig Trove, because I know that officially Fig Trove are the people that are in charge of this one. So yeah. And, well, now I don't know if it's happening. I'll have to check my email which I've already done so a handful of times throughout today. And so far I have not gotten anything. Let me double check actually. But I didn't see anything. I'm usually good about checking my email. And yeah, I don't see anything. But supposedly there was probably some kind of delay. But supposedly Toys Metaverse themselves as well said that according to their socials, to their Instagram, they did a post and they did a story. Actually, no, I think it was a story. Toys Metaverse posted a story insinuating that Red Death is actually on the horizon and they were supposedly going to start shipping this week. I'm assuming they didn't confirm this though. I'm simply just assuming that similar to Batman Who Laughs here, they're going to do it in batches. Now I'm assuming. Am I part of the first batch? I kind of should be because I double checked and I did put down the pre-order day one. Like immediately when Toys Metaverse announced that the pre-order was live for LPZZ UPF Red Death, that same day I locked down my pre-order. So I checked the date on my pre-order, and I checked the date on that social media post when they said, hey, pre-orders are open. It was the same day. So I'm like, should be. I don't know exactly what the timing was in terms of hours, but it was the same day. Now here we are. Now they made that story. Did they make a I know it was a story, so obviously the story is gone now. Let me check and see if they made a post that stayed on their page. I doubt it. They didn't. Yeah, they didn't. God damn it. Did they get tagged or something? No, they didn't. I should have screenshotted that. God damn it. Sorry, guys. I failed you. I should have screenshotted that. Yeah, it was just a story, so now it's gone. Probably, if I'm being honest, probably a good strategy to do a story, not a post. That way, if things don't go originally planned because of delays or whatever, story's now gone. So, no harm, no foul. But they did post a story that they alluded that they should be getting first shipment this week, but that was on Monday. What was it, on Monday? Yeah, that was like around Monday or Tuesday. No, it was Monday. It was right before I got this delivered. So I was over here like, holy shit, I'm getting this delivered, and I might be getting the invoice for Red Death. We're already on Friday though, and so far no invoice for Red Death. Now, have they sent invoices over the weekend before? Yeah, actually, I might be wrong, but I think this invoice came in on a Saturday, and I believe my invoice for the Arkham Knight Deathstroke by LPZZ that I also ordered through Toys Metaverse, I believe they, oh nice, I believe that invoice also came in on a Saturday. I was like, on a Saturday? They work on Saturdays too? Let's be honest, Chinese companies, they don't give a shit. If they have employees willing to work on a Saturday, they'll work them on Saturdays. Very proud for all their work. Yeah, they definitely have a strong. I can honestly say that the Chinese have a stronger work ethic than Americans, if I'm being honest. Which is why they take days off in terms of like those like the new lunar year, break, as well as the recent labor break that I think Anart it's kind of in the middle of right now, as well as LPCC. They take those breaks super seriously to where I think they even kind of dock your pay if you ever choose to work on those days. If you do anything that has to do with work on those days, they will legit be like, okay, we're docking your pay. It's like, you're not supposed to work. Take the day off. But yeah. But you'll notice it's still wrapped in the cellophane. And that's because I still haven't cracked it open, because I don't want to risk cracking it open while I have so much other stuff lingering here in the room, because I'm trying to... Basically, it starts to trigger me a little bit when I have way too much stuff just kind of open and splayed everywhere, and I put them at risk of either breaking in case something falls over on them. I live in Southern California. I have to be open to the possibility that at any given moment we could go from 1 second of everything being cool and collected, 1 second, and then the next 6.3, 7.0 earthquake hits. Something over here on the side falls, hits the figures instead of hitting the box when it's packaged up. There it goes. So I have to plan for that contingency. So I don't want to have too many figures, and then on top of that, sometimes like dust, chemicals, what have you, start clamoring, building up on the figure by just having them linger there. I don't want to have stuff too much stuff opened, and then me having to get certain shots and just feel overwhelmed by it. So right now I'm in the cusp of hopefully getting near the finish line of shooting footage for a comparison video, the 3 ways that I was mentioning before. The first one being a 3-way comparison between the 3 Nightmare Batmans that I have, the McFarlane, the Fonjoy, and the new Mafex 2.0. That's the one that it's on the cusp of almost being done. Once it's done, and I feel like once I'm done with that one, package all 3 figures, make room, and then finally I'll unbox, which I'm hoping to start doing at the beginnings of this week. package them up, and finally unbox Batman Who Laughs from LPCZ. Especially since, like I mentioned before, next week my dad's going to be off for a whole week. But whenever he does that, he and my mom end up taking trips. And if they take up trips, I'm like, perfect time to film videos. If I have the house to myself, video making time. And no video deserves it more than doing the LPCZ Batman Who Laughs. So that's my goal. And then the other 3-way that I'm in the middle of right now of shooting, that I already filmed the main video, the main A-roll as it's called, and now it's time to start cutting it and editing it and shooting the B-roll for, is the comparison between the Marvel Legends, the figure arts, and the Mafex for the final suit Spider-Man from No Way Home. The final suit Tom Holland figure amongst those 3. So I'm shooting that. I already shot that, but I have to edit it and add markers and then start shooting the B-roll for that. But I'm closer to finishing the Nightmare Batman one than the Tom Holland final suit Spider-Man. That one, I'm still a ways off. So yes, Skelly Bones. It's a double threesome. By the way, Packrat, or what was her name? Did you change her name again? What was her name originally? Because I recognize your icon. God damn it. Pfft. I'll just call you Maurice. There you go. But yeah, I remember your name being different. What the hell? Cow keys just shipped out. Yeah, it looks like shipments are going out from everywhere. Speaking of which, I'm going to have to also start deciding on when I'm going to start. And Brian, your dishwasher, Pepe Instigator, you should know, what we were talking about in that comment section. I feel like at this point, just start pre-ordering in-art action 112 scale figures on my own. Just do that. Just build it into my head that you're just going to have to pre-order. So now, Maurice Phillip. All right, there you go. Then YouTube changes to show a username instead. Yeah, it's so weird. But yeah, moving forward, whenever InArt announces a new 112 figure, I just decide where to put the pre-orders down. So right now, I technically already have a Bombus B pre-order for the Arkham Origins Batman. The basic version, not the battle damage version. I gotta be honest, I don't really have any interest in the battle damage version. So the 2 that I have left to pre-order is Red Death and now Batman Who Laughs. I was holding out to see, like I said, the correspondence that I mentioned in the last stream, but now, like I said, I should probably just program myself to just be like, all right, it's just assume it's not happening and just put down the pre-orders. Just move on. I'm just going to move on. Because I definitely do want to cover those figures on the channel. So just move on, put down your pre-orders, and hope to God that I have the money to back it up when the time comes. And start moving things about. And then Big Rib, sorry, I saw your comment earlier. That's right, David, your LPCC Batman Who Laughs review. I have him, and he's okay because I saw reviews on the in-art versions, and it looks like it's going to blow it out of the water. Well, that's the thing, is like, I'm trying not to watch those reviews that are already up. Let's not judge that up again. Like I said, I'm moving on. But I definitely don't want to watch those reviews to let anything kind of influence or deter my opinion in any kind of way, or yeah, like I said, influence it or subconsciously manifest it in any kind of direction. I want to go in as blind as possible. No, I haven't seen any reviews for the LPCZ version nor the in-art version. Just it is what it is. talking about eBay. eBay's being annoying. I feel on that. Not all business relationships work out, and that's okay. Yeah, that is what it is. Like I said, everything they said in that comment, I'm like, I usually don't read. As soon as I see a comment that long, I'm like, I don't have time for that. But you hooked me. You built a really good narrative. I was like, that's fair. It's completely fair. Currently waiting for Batmissle to ship my in-art Catwoman and for delivery of Batman from Hobby Link with some other stuff. That reminds me, I got 2 figures on Hobby Link Japan, but those fucking tariffs, man, they make it so. And it's funny because those 2 figures that I have at Hobby Link still waiting. One of them I'm like 90% certain I'm just gonna sell, which is the Comic Gambit. Because it was one of those spur-of-the-moment pre-orders that I forgot about. And then by the time I remembered and wanted to cancel, the Hobby Link was like, no, too late. And they charged me for it. So now I'm like, I should just ship it and try to sell it. Try to see if I could at least get a portion of my money back. Because I know I'm not going to make a profit out of it. But just try to offset it towards somebody who likes Gambit a little bit more than I do. Because it looked cool. And initially I thought, a non-Batman, non-Spider-Man Mayfix review. But ever since then, I'm like, I'd rather take the money because we need the money. So, yeah, okay. I think I'm going to call it here, guys. Like I said, we actually managed to sneak in a good topic there at the end that I wasn't part of the itinerary, but I was like, all right, cool. Managed to chug that along. Sorry for those of you who are coming in a little late here because of the time zone. But like I said, if I do stream next week, whether it's to cover that Mortal Kombat McFarlane Toys show live stream that could maybe yield some information regarding DC, which I'm very, very doubtful for. But the official tweet or social media post did mention that there could be reveals related to other brands outside of Mortal Kombat, so I'll keep my ear to the ground. But right now, to temper expectations, don't expect me to live stream next week. But don't rule out the possibility that I will, because A, my parents might be gone, so I might take advantage of the silence in the house, the convenience, and go live to possibly talk about that live show, to possibly talk about anything DC related that they might unveil. And along with that, whatever Hasbro has cooking up, because apparently didn't Dan Yun say some shit? Didn't he run his mouth on Twitter? Didn't he say something on Twitter about some reveals coming up here? Where are you at? Where are you at, Dan? You son of a bitch. Where are you? Here we go. Oh, no. It's for SDCC. Sorry. I thought it was a bit more coming up. No, it's for SDCC. 2 Marvel Legends exclusives this year. They sort of have a similar theme. There will be a reveal later. Okay, so the reveal later this month. But what does later mean? If it's at the end of the month, then obviously nothing to really talk about next week. Okay. I should have expected that. I have seen, I think you meant to say, have you seen the Desert Seeker Nightmare Batman? It's third-party present toys. Let me just type in present toys Nightmare Batman. Where are you? Okay, I'm looking at it on Toys Metaverse. I get what they were trying to do. I'm sorry. I get it what they were trying to do, but no, this ain't it, man. Figures live and die. It's a good thing that it was... Oh, no, never mind. I was going to say $20. No, it's $95. Full price is almost $100 after shipping and tax. No, man. No. Because what is that face? I'm sorry, man, but no, it's not for me. Plus, like I said, I'm starting to feel a bit of the burnout on Nightmare Batman, or frankly, any BVS Batman. Unless it's something killer like In Art with the 112 stuff that they've been teasing at events, or the most recent reveal of the 1/6 scale BVS Batman. Unless it's something of that caliber, I'm getting kind of burnt out on anything Snyderverse Batman. And this one right here, look at that face. Can I zoom in on that? Oh, yeah, I can. Well, that's it. I'm sorry, man, but no. I can't do it. Sorry, Big Rip. It's definitely the third part, but it's pretty awesome. I mean, maybe like the felt goods and the materials kind of give it that premium feel, but looking at the head sculpt, like I said, figures can kind of live and die for me from head sculpts, and that wasn't it. That wasn't it. All right, guys, I'm out of here. As usual, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, losing my voice, and we covered a lot. So, Big Rib, Pepe Instigator, Pat Rat, Maurice Phillip, Skelly Bones, of course. Who else was here? Blood Lycan, love your name again. Mike Rios, Big Whopper, 3030 Deltron, Ale Prime 07N earlier. We actually had some new people show up. Olivia Miller. Is that it? That's most of the names that I'm seeing on the chat. And then anybody else who lurked and watched by proxy. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and catching the stream. Again, I'll let you guys know via some kind of like community post or whatever if I go live next week to talk about that McFarlane Toy Show. If there's anything worthwhile talking about regarding anything that has to do with DC. If anything comes down the pipeline between now and then regarding Marvel Legends, McFarlane Toys DC, LPZZ, and what have you. We'll see. We'll see. But right now, just don't expect anything. But hey, I didn't think I was going to stream today. And instead, there was quite a bit enough to talk about. So things could be very by the ear like that. Until then, though, thank you guys for watching again. Stay humble. And as always, take care.